What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video we're going in with the dark horses of every division in the UFC. That's right, there are a bunch of fighters up and coming in the sport, a bunch of guys that are either not ranked or just outside that kind of spot where everyone sort of thinks of them as a contender. So these are the guys that people are underlooking, that they're not paying enough attention to, and I'm going to give you 3 people in each division that are going to make big rises in 2024 and potentially even become top 10 or even top 5 fighters as well. So let's get started with the flyweight division. The first prospect, or the first dark horse that we have, is Tatsuro Taira. Of course, he's Japanese, he's a good prospect. He's young as well, only 23 years of age. He's come on a big win streak too, undefeated. And I just think he's a dark horse. I think a lot of people, the hardcores, know who he is. The hardcores know that this guy is a prospect to watch, but his grappling's really good. He's subbed a lot of his last opponents. He even got his first TKO in the UFC in his last fight. And at 23 years of age, I think he's definitely got a big future. Maybe he doesn't make this big run this year, but I definitely think that at least in some point, maybe towards the end of the year and maybe even the start of 2025, we're going to see Tatsuro Taira break into the rankings with other guys like Muhammad Mokaev, who I'm not going to include, but one guy that I am going to include is Tagir Ulanbekov. He's number 11 ranked right now. He's got great grappling. He's got the inbred powers, of course. He looked much better in his last fight. He looked much improved. So I do believe Tagir Ulanbekov is going to make a big rise. I think he is going to climb around 5 to 7 spots in the rankings. His only loss recently is to Tim Elliott. That was a controversial loss. Also a fight where Tim Elliott cheated a lot too. So I do rate Tagir Ulanbekov pretty highly, even though he's inbred as fuck. So morally, I'm against him as a human being, but I think he's also going to make a big rise too, like Taira. But the last fighter that we have is Josh Van. He's also unranked. He's got elite striking. He's only 22, and I think he's going to end the year as a top 10 fighter. In his last fight, which was only a couple weeks ago, he got a second round TKO. He didn't look amazing in the first round, but he never does. That's something that he has a problem with in the first round. He often doesn't look the best, but he makes his reads similar to like a Peter Yan. I think he is like a flyweight Peter Yan type of guy, and I think he's going to cause problems for these guys. I think he's got a great 5-round style as well. I can see him doing really well in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, because we haven't seen him go to the 4th and 5th. So I think that's something he would do very well, but this guy mixes up the combinations better than a lot of guys in the division. He's one of the few guys that goes to the body as well with punches. Once he gets the combinations going, it's great to watch. So Josh Van, elite, or not elite right now, but I do think he's going to be one of the elite guys soon, and I think he ends the year in the top 10 spot too. But let's move on to the Bantamweight division. I think the first sort of dark horse in this division, and one that I think a lot of hardcores are paying attention to, is Jonathan Martinez. He's currently ranked number 12, but I still think this guy's going under the radar majorly. He hasn't really had like a signature win. He beat Adrian Yanez, but a lot of people weren't rating Adrian Yanez very highly after he lost to Rob Font. So I don't think Martinez is getting the respect he deserves. But if you look at his fight with Said Nurmagomedov, who's a guy that I was going to put in this list, but I just think like with his name into that, I just can't put him in there. But Said Nurmagomedov is a great fighter who's well-rounded and mixes everything up and got great grappling, great striking, and Martinez won that fight 2-1. I know it was a close fight. He could have lost, but I think he's not super young either. He's not super old, but he's got devastating leg kicks. I do think he's flying under the radar. This guy's got 2 leg kick TKOs. Another guy who's got 2 leg kick TKOs? Edson Barboza. I think Barboza's got more than that, but this is the sort of thing we're looking at. A guy that is just coming into his fights with just a crippling weapon with those leg kicks, and you're going to have to respect him. So I think Martinez, he's going to climb at least 5 spots in the rankings, get to maybe number 7, number 6, if they matchmake him correctly, if the UFC gives him the fights that I think he deserves. I wouldn't even mind him against Chito Vera if he loses to Sean O'Malley. I think that's a great fight. You could do that in like a Mexico or a South American sort of pay-per-view. That would be a sick fight to add. But the next fighter that we have here is Mario Bautista. He's ranked number 14 right now, and I didn't rate him super highly after his fight with Damon Blackshear. Of course, I rated Damon Blackshear very highly after his Twister win, and he's had some fights with the guys like Farid Basharat, where I rated him very highly. But Mario Batista, I didn't rate him against Blackshear just because he looked kind of iffy, but since then, he fought Ricky Simone, and he looked great. He looked much improved. Cardio and pressure, two of this guy's biggest attributes, and I think he's going to have a big climb in the rankings too. He called out Rob Font in his last fight. I think that's a great fight to make personally. I would love to see that. And if he beats Rob Font, he's breaking into that top 10. So I think we could see this guy just outside the top 5, maybe even inside the top 5 if the UFC really straps the rockets to him and pushes him correctly. But the final fighter that we have for Bantamweight is, it's two fighters. It's both of the Basharat brothers. I didn't really want to put one. Obviously, Bantamweight's one of those divisions that has a great unranked pool of guys that you really could go with anyone. So if you disagree with my picks, that's fair enough. Let me know in the comments. But both of these guys look great in their fights. Farid Basharat looked great against Taylor Lapulus in his last matchup, who's also a very solid guy that could become ranked in the future. These guys are both well-rounded. They've both got great fight IQ. I hear their interviews. The way they talk about the game, I am definitely confident that both of these guys will become ranked in the future. So I think both of these guys should end 2024 as ranked guys if the UFC gives them the opportunity. Of course, if they don't fight a ranked opponent, they're not going to become ranked. But these two should definitely, I think they're both ranked caliber, and I think we see their names in the top 10 for years to come in the future. But we move on to the featherweight division. First guy that we have here is Diego Lopez. Obviously, we all know Diego Lopez. He's the GOAT. He's Movsar Evloev's father. He legally has custody over the Russian man himself. But this guy's getting the rocket strapped to him. I think I'm very confident. I did a rankings video predicting the rankings by the end of 2024. Obviously, go check that out if you haven't already. But I said Diego Lopez was going to be number 4 ranked by the end of the year. And everyone came at me and said I was crazy, saying I'm overrating him. And I'm like, first of all, this guy's top 10, top 5 quality already, in my opinion. But unlike some of these guys like the Basharat brothers, who I'm not too confident will get the push just because they're not too entertaining, this guy is fucking mad entertaining. He's got a great fighting style, and he's about to fight, or he's rumored to fight, Sadiq Youssef next at UFC 300. So the fact they're putting Diego Lopez as an unranked guy against the top 15 guy at UFC 300 shows that they know the star potential that this guy has. So I think they're going to really strap the rockets to him. I think if he beats Sadiq Youssef, I'm looking at who are we looking at after Sadiq Youssef? Maybe a Ortega if he loses to Yair even, or an Arnold Allen. Maybe a Kelvin Cater. Any of those guys, I could see him really getting just opponent outside the top 5. So I think Diego Lopez is going to get the rocket strapped to him. I think he's going to have a major push behind him. And I know he's not a dark horse. People rate him pretty highly, but still, for those that don't know who he is, for those that aren't fully behind him, he's a guy that you got to be behind. But Joanderson Brito is the next guy. This man, he's also unranked, and he continues to aggressively call out Dan Ige. He's been doing it since the middle of last year. It's amazing. It's an ongoing meme for the hardcore fans that no one else knows about. Just Joanderson Brito aggressively calling out Dan Ige. It's very amusing. But yeah, he's great. He's got a well-rounded fight style. He beat Diego Lopez, so that should say what you need to know enough already. But in his last fight against Jonathan Pierce, he's very strong. He just got up and then subbed him. I think he's got a great style, and I think he can already be ranked caliber. But yeah, man, just give this man Dan Ige. He's now fighting Andre Fili. Disgusting, despicable move. He was booked against Lerone Murphy. Already should have been Joanderson Brito. Then Murphy pulls out, and now he's fighting touchy-feely, and instead of Joanderson Brito. What are we doing here? But regardless, he's got a great finishing ability. This guy, I think, is going to be top 10 by the end of the year as well. So I'm high on Joanderson Brito, and I think he'll be another guy that should get the push if the UFC knows what they're doing. But Lerone Murphy is the last guy. He's number 14 ranked. Again, he did pull out of his Dan Ige fight, so he might have to fight back in the rankings now. He might not get a ranked opponent. But regardless, I do think this guy's still exciting enough. I think if they go to England, which they might as well just save him until then if it's going to be relatively soon. I think if they go to England, they're pretty likely to give this guy a ranked opponent. I think he could get maybe even a Sadiq Youssef after he loses to Lopez if that happens. But yeah, he's well-rounded. He's British, which is a concern, but I do think he'll also be top 10 by the end of the year. And a lot of people don't know who he is, but Diego Lopez, another guy that you need to watch. The lightweight division is where we move to next. The first prospect that we have is Bernard St. Denis. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this pick and say, oh, he's already fighting a top 5 guy. How could you say he's a dark horse? Like, I still think people are underrating this guy, and also he is currently ranked outside the top 10, which is my sort of ceiling for this. I think if you're inside the top 10, you can't really be a dark horse, you're more of just a contender, but I still consider Bernard a dark horse. I think people are underrating him. I'm hearing a lot of people say, oh bro, Poirier's a vet, man, he's got it, trust. There's no way that Bernard wins, man. He's too sloppy. So I think people don't know who this guy is as a fighter. I don't think they have a good grasp of who he is. I think they think he's just some wild brawler and shit like that, but he's a French Chad and he's unbreakable. So he's going to be a number 1 contender or fight for a belt by the end of this year, depending on how the cards fall. In my opinion, I could see if he beats Poirier dominantly and then either the winner of Gaethje versus Holloway or the winner of Oliveira versus Arman can't turn around to fight Islam if they want to make that in June, then I could see BSD just taking it, because you know this guy's like, fuck it, I'll just take the fight. Like, this guy doesn't care, bro. He's been to war already. He doesn't give a fuck about a shortened training camp, so I think he will take that fight in a heartbeat. And I'm not saying for sure that he beats Islam, but I honestly think style-wise, out of everyone in the division, he is the guy to give him the most problems. But regardless, I think by the end of the year, he's going to beat Poirier, and then I don't know what he does from there. If he has to fight one more time, maybe against, like, I don't know, the winner of Gaethje Holloway after they lose to Islam or some shit like that. I don't know. But I think he beats Poirier, and then he's going to end the year in a top 3 position, and I personally believe he'll be number 1. But the next guy that we have is Elvis Brenner. He's unranked, if you guys don't know who he is. He's got that shootbox style, the dyed hair, but yeah, he's a great fighter. He's well-rounded, and I think he's going to end the year top 10. He came in 2023, was a big underdog against Zhabraya Tukagov, won that fight by close decision. Then in his next fight, he fought Guram Kutateladze on short notice. Again, a big underdog. Won that fight by TKO, and then won his next fight in Brazil by KO in front of his home crowd. I think this guy's got a fan-friendly style. I do see the UFC giving this guy some top matchups and stuff like that. So I don't think he'll get a ranked guy in his next fight, but I think one more win, and I think he could become a ranked guy. He's clearly promotable in my eyes. Like, you've got that shootbox style. You can promote your training partners with Oliveira. You can easily be promoted. So I think this guy's going to end the year in the top 10 or just outside it, but he'll be ranked for sure, and he's a guy to keep your eye on. But the last guy that we have for the lightweight division is Mateusz Rebecki. He's the superior Mateusz. You know, there's 2 guys in the lightweight division that are Polish and named Mateusz, and he's the better one. Trust me, he would beat Mateusz Gamrot easy. But yeah, he's got that block physique, you know, density maxing expert, and I think he will also be a top 10 guy. He came in, he fought like Nick Fior, not a top level guy, not a high level guy, beat him. Then his next fight, he just smoked Loic Rajdabov, who was considered a pretty good fighter by a lot of guys. So they're very impressive. And then after that, he was meant to fight Nurullo Aliyev, but he pulled out like a Dagestani bitch. And so then he fought Roosevelt Roberts, the former president of the United States. I'm pretty sure that sounds like the name of a president. But he smoked him too, subbed him too. This guy's well-rounded. He's big. He's not super like big like height-wise, but he's bulky, he's strong, he's powerful. He's got a submission game. He's got good grappling, he's got good striking, and I think he's a guy to watch too. So yeah, we move on to the welterweight division. And the first prospect, or the first dark horse I have here is Jack Della Maddalena. I still think this guy is very underrated personally. He's number 11 ranked. He's booked to fight Gilbert Burns. And I think his fight with Basil Hafez, which I understand the concern. Of course, he didn't look the best in that fight. But I think that is misguiding people to believe that this guy just has no grappling. He's got no submission defense. He can't wrestle, any of that. Like, he won that fight clearly. I know it was a split decision. That was a dumb scorecard. He won clearly on damage. But yeah, his fight IQ in that fight looked a bit questionable, but you guys got to remember, he was booked to fight the week before. He then had another short notice opponent on that card who pulled out because he probably would have died if he fought. Then he already cut weight for that fight. Then he goes back a week later, cuts weight to 170 again. So not even a catch weight, cuts weight back to 170. I think that's a one-off performance. He looked great against Kevin Holland. Again, I know that was also a split decision. Shouldn't have been again. He clearly won. And I picked Holland in that fight. I thought the range was going to give Dallas some problems. But he did really well in that fight. He's now booked to fight Burns. I think he's going to win that fight. I think Burns is a bit too slow, a bit too stiff. And I think he gets caught by jabs a lot and he doesn't have the best chin. So personally, I think he's going to beat Gilbert Burns, end up as a top 5 guy, and then from there on, fight once more. I don't know who he will fight, but I think we see Della Maddalena as a top 3, top 5 guy by the end of the year. He's got really good hands, great boxing, very good power too. But another fighter that we have here is Kevin Jessett, also an unranked guy, and a lot of people probably don't know who this is, but he's got great striking. He fought the guy that Ian Gary got dropped by, the local dumpling shop owner, Kanan Song. He fought him and tuned him up easily and didn't even get touched. So I think he's got great defense, he's got good striking. He won his first fight in the UFC by submission, and I think he'll be ranked by the end of the year. He's the CKB guy. He's French as well, French of origin, so I can see them sending him to France, to Paris, and giving him like a top 15 guy as like a showcase fight. So I think like a Neil Magny maybe, and he probably won't drop the ball like Mike Malott did. But yeah, I rate Kevin Jessett very highly. I think he'll be ranked. But another fighter that we have here is Michael Morales, also unranked. I think more people know who this guy is, but he's still a little bit under the radar. He doesn't look super dominant or impressive in his fights, but he won against Jake Matthews last time out. He looks great. He's pretty powerful. He's got solid striking. He's very athletic. Again, I think he's going to be ranked by the end of the year. He's slowly improving. He's young too. He's in his mid-20s. So yeah, I think he'll get the push. He's got that South American market. He's from Ecuador, I'm pretty sure. So if they did like an Ecuador card, for sure he would definitely be featured on that prominently against a ranked guy. So I think he'll be ranked. I think they give him a more favourable matchup to get into the rankings. But I know he doesn't look super impressive in his recent fights, but I still think he's improving. He's a young guy. And sometimes people have a style where they don't dominate guys, but they just win a bunch of fights. So you're like, this guy's winning all the way up into the top 5, but he's not dominating anyone. So of course he's not going to beat the champion. By no means am I saying Morales is championship quality, but those guys, like they just kind of win. They don't do it impressively, but they just win fights. I think he's one of those guys, and he's going to continue to win and end up in the top 15. But we move on to the middleweight division. I believe the most underrated fighter, or the biggest dark horse at middleweight, is Roman Kopylov. This guy is some of the best striking at middleweight. I think top 5 arguably. I think you're looking at Strickland, Adesanya, Dricus, Whitaker, and I think he fits into that number 5 spot personally. I think his striking is really good. I think he's going to smoke Fluffy Hernandez. He's fighting him on short notice, filling in for Ikram Aliskov. Surprise, the Dagestani pulled out with a fucking staph infection. Like, come on, just fight, mate. It's 3 weeks out. Just heal up, bro. You're fine. But regardless, he's filling in, he's fighting Fluffy Hernandez, who's ranked. So if he wins that fight, my prediction already comes true. He'll become ranked. But I think he goes further than that. I think he ends the year... He ends the year in the top 10, in my opinion, closer to the top 5 if they get the push behind him. I think he's promotable. I know he doesn't speak English very well. I know he's not like good on the mic or anything, but he's got a super fan-friendly fighting style. He's got a sort of gimmick around him. His last 3 fights have all been by second round TKO, so I'm going to pick him to get it done by second round TKO against Fluffy Hernandez, and I'm going to continue to do that until he does anything else, because that's just what he does. But he's a sniper. He's got really high strike percentage. If you look at his fight with Claudio Ribeiro, he was striking at like 70% for the whole first round, and then he had a bit of a wild exchange at the end. But then he KO'd him in the second with a head kick. He's got great power. He's beaten some solid guys. I know he hasn't beaten anyone top ranked, but I think he beats Fluffy Hernandez, and then after that, I think he gets a top guy, or not top guy, but like maybe the loser of a Mavov versus Dolidze, and I think he could even win that. But speak of one of those guys, it's Nassourdine Mavov, and I don't think he will lose to Roman Dolidze. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's a top guy. And I think people are underrating him just because he lost to Sean Strickland. Are we not forgetting that Sean Strickland was the champion and just had a really close fight with Dricus du Plessis? I know this guy has had some losses, like he lost to Phil Hawes, which is, a bit embarrassing, but he's not a big power puncher by any means, and Phil Hawes, he can beat you as long as you don't have a strong jab. So let's just chill on the Nassourdine Mavov slander, I think he's still pretty good. He looked impressive against Buckley. He looked great against Chris Curtis. He was tuning him up until the headbutt. And I think he's going to school Dolidze and end up there just outside the top 5. Maybe he fights Vettori after he loses to Brendan Allen if he beats Dolidze. But Dolidze's ranked number 8, I'm pretty sure, and maybe number 7 or 8. So if he beats him, he gets maybe the loser of Whitaker versus Costa, even if they really want to push him. Again, he's French, and those places that they go to once a year, they are Definitely the ones where it's like they want guys fighting top fights on there, so they could put him against a top guy, maybe like a Cannoneer or something as well. But yeah, I think another guy is Joe Pyfer. He apparently hits harder than Francis Ngannou, which would be crazy if true, but again, not too much to say. He's going to smoke Hermansson, in my opinion. Hermansson's number 10, so I think he beats him. And then maybe they give him Vittori after if he loses to Allen. But yeah, I think this guy's promotable. Dana White's talked about him. He clearly likes him, and I think he ends up outside the top 5. So yeah, Joe Pyfer, great fighter, top 5 guy in the future, I think. But the light heavyweight division is where we move to next. And Azamat Murzakanov is the first guy that I have here as a dark horse of the division. He looks like a 45-year-old, but he's actually pretty solid. He's a density maxing enjoyer, just like Mateusz Rebecki. He's ranked number 13 right now, hasn't fought in a while. He pulled out against Volkan Ozdemir and then also pulled out against Khalil Roundtree. So he does seem to have some health issues, which are unfortunate, but I've seen him fight. He's got good KO power. His cardio does seem to be a bit of a concern, but I don't say this guy's going to be a top 5 guy, but I think he can end just outside the top 5. He's got good power, he's got a good finishing ability, and I think he's a pretty solid guy. He beat Dustin Jacoby, who's actually pretty solid. So, yeah, Murzakanov, great fighter. People don't really know who he is, though. But Carlos Ulberg is the next guy here, and obviously he was booked to fight Dominic Reyes, but now he's fighting an autistic black person, Alonzo Menifeld. But yeah, I think he should win that fight. He's unranked, but Menifield's like number 12, wins that, maybe he gets a Johnny Walker in his next fight. That would be a sick fight. But yeah, he's promotable clearly. You know, he's a decent looking guy, but yeah, if I was gay, I might hit. But yeah, Ulberg, good fighter. Got a good finishing ability, is powerful, all that, and I think he'll end the year just outside the top 5. But Vitor Petrino is another guy, also unranked. He's an undefeated Brazilian. He KO'd a Baltic man in his last fight. He's now booked to fight Tyson Pedro in a couple months' time. I think he probably gets that done. If not, that's unfortunate. If so, I think he gets a ranked guy after this. Maybe he gets the Dominic Reyes spoon feed. But yeah, again, super powerful guy, definitely promotable. They can put him in Brazil and stuff like that. And I think he will end the year just around the top 10. So not quite as high on him as I am on Ulberg, but still a great fighter, Vitor Petrino. But let's be honest, light heavyweight, we're searching far and wide to find some dark horses, because pretty much everyone's fucking... Oh, I should have put Krylov, but, you know, he's already in the top 10. So I would have put Krylov, but my criteria for this is they have to be outside the top 10. So yeah, we move on to the heavyweight division, the big boys. And although it is difficult to find, you know, some dark horses of the featherweight division, I've found some guys that I think are going to make a bit of a push. So Justin Tafa is the number 1 guy for me. He's got those Islander genes. He's got those Mark Hunt 2.0 genetics. Powerful. He's got a pretty solid chin too. He's booked to fight Rogerio de Lima in a month's time, or at UFC 298. He's ranked, so if he gets that one done, he will be ranked. Then I think you could give him a Derek Lewis matchup, which would be fun in my opinion. I think that's definitely where they would go if he gets this one done. But regardless, powerful guy, not 100% confident he does win against De Lima. His grappling is a little bit of a concern, but he's super inexperienced. So he's only 7-3. He was 5-3 at one point, but he looks much improved. He KO'd his last 2 opponents. Granted, Parker Porter and Austin Lane, but still, he's I don't think Rogerio de Lima is that good, and I think if you got power and you got a decent chin at heavyweight, you can make it pretty far. So I think he'll do so. But Shamil Gaziev is the next one that we have here. He's the fat Khabib, you know how it is. He's booked to fight Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I'm not even confident he wins, but if he does, yeah, good for him. Fucking, I don't know, he's fat Khabib, like, what do we want? He's a fucking Dagestani, so he's gonna just, like, plot armor and just fucking main character his way to the, gonna main character his way probably to the top 5. I doubt it, though, because he seems pretty shit, but anyway, I don't know. Heavyweight's got no prospects. He'll probably end the year in the top 10. But this is the one prospect that we actually do have on the horizon at heavyweight, and it's Rebelis de Spain, the heavyweight Romero with an 87-inch reach. I think this guy is going to cause a lot of problems for the fat heavyweights and for a lot of the guys that, apart from the top 5 opponents, he's probably going to smoke everyone because he's athletic, he's got a great reach, great striking and stuff, great finishing ability. So I think he'll end the year just outside the top 5 if they do push him. Because if they try and just give him a bunch of cans and build up his highlight reel, then that's unfortunate. But if they do, he's fighting a fat man in his debut. If they just give him a ranked opponent after that straight away, like give him Rosenstrike, win or lose against Gaziev, just give him Rosenstrike next, and then at least that's like a notable guy, and you can make that fight. But I think he'll be outside the top 5 if he gets the correct matchups. He's a great fighter to watch for a lot of guys. But thanks for watching, guys. This is a video I wanted to make for a while. I've already done stuff similar to this, like with the rankings prediction. I did like a dark horses, a prospects video, but that was more for like the younger guys. This is just the people that I think are going under the radar. So thanks for 3K subs as well. We hit 3K subs recently. I much appreciate that. Like the video or else you have to take a bath with Shamil Gaziev. Leave a comment on which fighters you think are going to make big rises in 2024. Subscribe, otherwise you have to muzz with Lucas Tracy. Follow my Instagram, Left Lane MMA, for more content. Subscribe to my Patreon to support the channel because I am demonetized. Link in the description, help me get money. And also, yeah, that's going to be it. See you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody. See ya.